So again, a couple of things to remember. Covering a Feetype module with your group does not mean doing anything different than you're probably already doing. So you might be a group tutor, you've never done Feetype before. I'm a resource worker and I come across this a lot with group tutors. Is there's maybe a reluctance there to start Feetype because there's maybe an idea that you're going to start to have to do something different with your group. Doing Feetype is not anything different than you're already doing. You're going to be doing all the same work, you're going to be using worksheets, you're going to be doing clothes exercises, you're going to be doing look, say, cover, that sort of thing. But at certain points in the activity you're going to do assessment activity. That's the only difference. Okay? So if there's any that kind of think I don't want to do Feetype because it'll be completely changing the way I work, it's not. It's just you're doing assessment activities at certain points in your class, during your classwork.
Know all of that information, okay? They have a right to know when you'll be assessing them, what's the schedule, you know, that this is an assessment piece they're doing. They have a right to know if there are accommodations available for learners with learning disability. So you as a teacher may be doing a lot of the communicating of that information. Maybe the ALO will be as well, but you definitely will be communicating the information around the brief, what they have to do for the assessment task, okay? This is the information that it's in a brief. Now it looks very maybe detailed, but basically when you're devising a brief from a QA point of view, you must have the name of the module and the component at the top. You must have the name of the technique of assessment. You can have a name for the piece of assessment as well, and then you have to have guidelines. You have to be very clear, what must the learner do? Now you will then have to make decisions with your ALO in relation to this. Will you hand the learner this brief as a complete brief, and will you get them to work through it, or will you discuss it with them first?
You are growing in your profession because you shouldn't stop learning yourself. And it shows that you don't want to stop learning because you're here. You're giving up your Saturday and your weekend to be here to learn more. So obviously you're doing okay in that regard. Okay, so you need to keep learning yourself. You need to help students move through Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure you're familiar with it, yeah? And there is a slide there, the next slide, and all of these notes are going up onto the NALA website, right? In the tutor corner. I thought I wasn't going to print it out, we're going to save the trees, all right? So you can log on to the NALA website and go to the tutors corner and all of these notes will be there for you. Be transparent with your students about how to succeed. If you're asked to do a task, for example, the ALO might say to you, could I have a report on that particular class that you're doing, that communications level 3 class? And you say, yeah, sure, what kind of things would you like in that report? And they go, well, sure, you know yourself. Just, you know, whatever you think. And you say, well, how long should the report be? Well, you know, like a normal report. You're going to go away feeling very confused about it, what you're supposed to do. Okay, you're going to feel nervous, maybe anxious as to what that task is. So be very, very clear and transparent with your learners and tell them exactly what it is you want them to do. I know they have assessment briefs, but how many learners read their assessment brief from start to finish and understand what's on that assessment brief? Okay, so you need to be giving them clear instructions. Obviously relate the content to their lives, because the more relevant it is, the more they're going to remember it. Okay, and it's the same for us as well. All right, so stick to kind of what they know and then grow on that. Keep the level in mind at all times, very important, because we have a lot of dropouts sometimes with adults, don't we? Either because the work is too difficult, they feel they can't cope, or because it's too easy and they're bored. And it's very difficult to get everybody excited, because you could have an 18-year-old in your class and you could have a 60-year-old in your class. So it's very difficult, so tutors have a hard time keeping everybody engaged. Now the thing that I think is really important is the themes and topics. When you're doing level 3 communications, you have got loads of learning outcomes to cover. If you have all these random worksheets in your portfolio that don't kind of correlate, there's no sort of cohesion between them, I do wonder how much the learner is retaining. If you've got one on a salary slip here, then a creative writing piece, then this, then that, then this. But there's no link between these different types of learning. I think that the learners may not remember it. If you created a theme, whatever it is, something real life, shopping, movies, entertainment, whatever, and then build your worksheets and your assessments around that particular theme, then learners feel that there's more cohesion and will remember more. Does that make sense? Yeah? You need to have themes and topics, and then learners can really sink their teeth into that particular topic, right? And you could be hitting loads of learning outcomes at the same time without having all this random stuff in the portfolio, none of which correlates to each other, right? So themes and topics. Have fun and use humour in the classroom, okay? You should. Most classes, you should at least have the students smiling at least once and laughing out loud in others, right? I'm not a particularly funny person, okay? People think I'm very serious. But I can go on the internet and I can find loads of funny clips on YouTube. I can find loads of jokes, all right? So there's no excuse for it, okay? Use humour and fun in your classroom. Now, the reason why there's two things there in blue, integration and blended learning, is because that is how I think we can make communications level 3 easier, okay? First of all, blended learning, which is, what does blended learning mean? Any ideas?
Using different methods of kind of attacking one subject, using maybe IT for some.
Yeah, blended learning exactly is IT. So blended learning is a mix of classroom learning, normal classroom learning, online learning, okay, and then also, very importantly, the learner's independent learning, okay. So that is blended learning, and IT is here to stay. Whether you like it, whether you don't, you need to embrace it. And you know, for those students that are not covering IT in their normal day classes, they're at a disadvantage, okay, in the real world. Because everything is moving towards IT, whether you're booking a holiday, whether you're paying for a parking ticket, whether you're paying for your toll, everything, okay, is linked to online. And that's why you need to link your communications with IT.
So you will be getting them to do a piece of work and you will be supervising them doing it, okay? So relate the ability to learning skills, supervise and to carry out routine work under direction. So this is a little bit, I remember it used to be said about prompts and clues, you know, the way where students might need, if they're gone off on the wrong track and doing the assessment thing, you can bring them back on track. It's not like sitting the junior cert exam or the leaving cert that they do it completely independently. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a difference here at level 2. So learning outcomes at this level are typically developmental rather than geared towards a specific occupation. So we are aware that when learners come out at level 2, they're not looking at accessing employment with the level 2 certificate. It's when they come out with a level 3 certificate that they may be beginning to look at employment options, because they confer a minimum level of employability, level 3, but not at level 2. So it's kind of like oftentimes it's done as a basis for learners, build up their confidence when they come back into education, and then learners will progress and move to level 3 programs maybe after they complete level 2. So that's what we're talking about, and the standard. Now another place where you're going to get the standard is in the component specification. So I'm now going to give you out one. We'll give a different one. We'll give reading, because I just called out the writing one earlier. So we'll just look at very briefly where you get the standard. Okay? So when you get this, you will see that you will have, at the top, you'll have the name of the component, which is writing. You'll have the credit value, which is 5, and the level, which is 2. Do you see that all at the top? And then you'll have the standard, which are the learning outcomes. And in this one, which one are we looking at? Reading. How many learning outcomes have we? 5?
Very smooth.
5, okay? So the learner will be able to do, and we've R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. They're your 5 learning outcomes.
Is weighting the same thing as credit value?
Yes, that's the weighting, okay? So we see here now that there are verbs associated with each outcome. Do you see what I mean? So we have that the learner will be able to read familiar words that are commonly used and personally relevant. They'll be able to use simple rules and text conventions. They'll be able to interpret different forms of writing and text, including social sight signs and symbols. They'll be able to find key information and use reading strategies.